Okay, what is the one thinking tool that separates innovators like Elon Musk from, well, pretty much everyone else? Here's a hint. It's not a genius IQ, and it's not about having unlimited resources. It's a specific way of thinking that anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn. And once you see it, it changes everything.
It's called the first principles method. And to really get how it can help you build something totally revolutionary, we first have to talk about the way most of us think and why it's holding us back. You see, to understand why this tool is such a game changer, we have to start with our default setting, what we call normal thinking. And you'll soon see why it's secretly a trap. Our brains are basically wired for shortcuts. It's just more efficient. So when we're faced with a problem, what's our first instinct? We look for a template, right? We ask ourselves, okay, how have other people done this before? We copy that, we tweak it a little, we iterate, but we're always staying inside the same box. This has a name. It's called thinking by analogy. And look, it's great for making small, safe improvements. It's how you get a slightly better smartphone every single year, but it will never, ever lead to a true breakthrough. It's all about evolution, not revolution. But what if you don't want to just make small improvements? What if you want to completely reinvent the game? Well, that's where first principles thinking comes in. This is the innovator's alternative. Think about it like this. Reasoning by analogy is like looking at a finished Lego house and just, moving a few blocks around to make the window a little bigger. You might make it a tiny bit better, but first principles thinking, that's like smashing the house into a pile of individual bricks, looking at each one, and realizing, wait a minute, with these same pieces, I can build anything I want. A castle, a spaceship, you're no longer stuck with the original design. So at its core, first principles thinking just means you ignore the finished product, the house, and you break the problem all the way down to its fundamental, undeniable truths, the atoms of the issue. Then you build your solution up from that foundation of truth, not down from what everyone else has already built. And honestly, nobody illustrates this better than Elon Musk. So let's just dive into a quick masterclass on how this works, using his approach to the absolutely insane cost of batteries. So back in the early 2000s, everyone in the industry just knew one thing. Batteries were ridiculously expensive. The going rate was about $600 per kilowatt hour. That was just reality. And analogical thinker would just say, okay, how do we make this $600 battery for $550? But Musk didn't do that. He completely ignored the final price tag and asked a classic first principles question. Forget the price. What are batteries actually made of? What are the raw materials? And when he did that, he discovered something pretty incredible. He went and priced out all the raw materials on the open commodities market. The cobalt, the nickel, the aluminum, all the basic ingredients. And he found that their combined cost wasn't anywhere close to $600. It was just $80. That huge gap between $80 and $600, that wasn't some law of physics. It was just 100 years of bloated supply chains, middlemen, and people simply copying what the person before them did. By reasoning up from the raw materials, from that $80 starting point, he could suddenly see a path to building his own batteries for a tiny fraction of the market price. And that's not just an improvement, that's a total disruption. It's the engine behind companies like Tesla and SpaceX. Okay, so that's great for a billionaire building rockets, but how can you and I actually use this? The good news is you don't need a physics degree or $1 billion, you just need a toolkit. And believe it or not, the core technique is over 2,000 years old. So let's open up your first principles toolkit. These are some simple but incredibly powerful methods you can use to generate radical new ideas just by getting to the root of any problem. The first tool is one you already mastered as a kid, the 5 whys. It's simple. You state a problem, and then, just like a curious toddler, you keep asking why about 5 times. Each why pushes you past the surface-level excuses and forces you to dig down to the actual root cause. And that root cause? That's your first principle. The second tool is a little more structured. It's called Socratic questioning. This is all about systematically challenging your own assumptions. You ask yourself, why do I even believe this? How do I really know it's true? What would happen if I believed the complete opposite? This process strips away all the dogma and opinion, leaving you with only what you can prove from the ground up. So, how do we actually put all this together? Because this isn't just for business or engineering. You can apply this exact same method to your own life, from your career path to your creative projects.
For example, instead of just applying for jobs that look like your last one, you break it down. Ask, what do I fundamentally want from a career? Is it autonomy? Is it impact? When you're learning a new skill, don't just memorize the steps. Find the core principles that make it work. You can use this to attack those personal problems that feel completely stuck, because for the first time, you'll be aiming at the root of the problem, not just the symptoms.
And this is really the ultimate takeaway. Stop making tiny incremental improvements on the life you already have. Find the fundamental truths, your personal building blocks, and build something entirely new from the ground up. Stop iterating, start innovating. So that leaves us with one last question. And this one's for you. Looking at your work, your goals, or maybe that one nagging problem you just can't seem to solve, what's the first thing you're going to rethink using this method? I'm genuinely curious to see what you all come up with, so drop your answer down in the comments. Thanks for watching.